Mama. Welcome to the Mrs. Mummy PhD podcast. I am your host, Dr. Michelle Gibbs, and this podcast exists to help scholarly mamas like you to achieve your life and academic goals without sacrificing what matters most. Here, we're changing the overwhelm, juggle, struggle narrative around what it means to be a mama on an academic journey to one of empowerment, fulfillment, and purposeful success. So how do we successfully navigate these journeys? Well, first, we need the space to embrace this unique blend. Let's begin by saying yes to creating a life that feels as good on the inside as it looks on the outside, because that's when we truly become purposefully whole. So get ready for the most non-traditional, unconventional, and revolutionary approach to PhD motherhood, because one thing I have learned over my many years of experience on this journey is that if you want something different, you have to do something different. But you must be brave enough to think differently first. So, Mama, are you in? Fabulous! Let's begin. These are our journeys of becoming. What if no one ever called you mom, doctor, manager? What if no one ever called you any of those things ever again? And you looked in the mirror, you stood in front of the mirror. Would you still recognize the woman that's standing there? What if your value had nothing to do with the titles, but everything to do with who you really are, your essence, your heart, your voice, your presence? Today, we're not going to be adding anything to that long list of hats that you wear. We're peeling those layers back, because this is a homecoming to the woman that you were before the world gave you labels. Let's dive in. Before we get into the episode, it would be so lovely if you would leave a kind review after listening to this podcast. It just helps the channel to grow, help others to discover this podcast, and that will mean the world to me and all the other mamas who are also juggling lofty goals and little moments. Let's get into it. Right. So this episode, like I said, is all about peeling back those layers and remembering who you are beneath the mom, the doctor, the manager, the student, the wife, the carer, all these hats, simply falling back in love with your essence, just simply falling in love with you. So let's talk about the titles that we carry. So many of us carry loads of titles. We have worked hard for those titles. Some of us have spent years of extensive study and have earned ourselves the title of doctor. Many of you who regularly listen to this podcast may be in the midst of this journey and navigating the thesis writing and the deadlines and just doing all you can to get to the end of what perhaps could have been a very long journey as well in doing your PhD or whatever course of study you're doing. So you know very well how hard you have been working to navigate this journey thus far. Many of us are also navigating careers or maybe jobs that take a lot out of us that we need to show up well for, because that's our source of income and that's part of the contribution that we want to make to this world in whatever form that takes. We're also juggling grocery lists and to-do lists and laundry, piles of laundry and all the things. And of course, our tiny humans that we are raising. And you may be juggling all these things, not only on a weekly basis, but on a daily basis. In fact, you may be juggling all these things within the same hour, right? Here's the thing about titles. Titles give us a place in the world. They help other people to understand what we do, what we have achieved. And so I am not denying the value in those titles and the fact that you've earned them, you deserve them. And I am the type of person who believes that if you have worked your way to this point, you deserve to be acknowledged for that. You deserve to carry your title with pride, and other people should respect the fact that you have navigated that journey and you've earned that title. So I'm not saying that the titles don't matter, right? It's not a small deal, it's a big deal. And you should be proud of your degrees, your career, your family, your leadership. You should be proud of all of that. But here's the thing. These things, these titles are external, and they tell the world what role you are playing. So we're mums. Most of us listen to this episode are mums, or maybe we're mums to be, or playing the role of mum if we're not mums, biologically, maybe playing that role. And there's a lot of value in that role. There's a lot of value and significance in that role. A mother for a child is the first role model, perhaps a confidant, a source of comfort, a source of peace, a source of groundedness when the world is full of chaos and when the world doesn't feel safe. It's a source of safety, right? Of course, I know, unfortunately, that this is not always the case, that someone who is playing the role as a mother is a positive influence in a child's life or a positive presence. But, the intention is that, and hopefully in the majority of cases, that is the case. And the reason why I am talking about this episode in particular today is because I know in Barbados for sure, and in America and some other parts of the world, Mother's Day is being celebrated in the next weekend after you listen to this episode. And so it's going to be on everybody's mind to celebrate the mums and, give her flowers. And people are naturally reflecting on the roles that mums play in society at large, but also individually in your own lives. And so those titles have value, right? But they don't necessarily tell someone who you are, your essence, your character, when all of the lights go out at night, right? Because all of those titles, if they all disappeared tomorrow, if no one called you mom or doctor or director or leader or manager or whatever, would you actually know how to answer the question, who am I? Would you be able to answer that question? And when we reflect on that question, it can feel uncomfortable because we don't know quite often who we are outside of all of these titles. But these titles are just labels. They just tell the world your position in the world, but they don't tell anyone who you are beneath the surface of all these titles. And that idea of who am I is a really sacred question that we all should look in the mirror and ask ourselves and be comfortable and confident with the answer, because our identity is not built on a job title or a professional title or professional role or our role in the family or even like the number of people who depend on you or how big your family is or any of those things. It's built on your essence, who you are at the core. And so what does it mean to actually be known? Let me ask you this question. When you think about the people that you love the most, your husband, your partner, your best friend, your sister, your daughter, your son, your grandmother, your aunt, your dad, whoever, when you think about all these people, do you love them because of their CV? Do you love them because of the title, the job they do? Do you love them because of how much money they have? Do you love them because they live in a nice house? No. You love them for the memories that you have created with them. You love them for their silly laugh. You love them because they make you smile. You love them because they bring that sense of familiarity and comfort to you, right? You love who they are, their presence, their depth, the way they show up for you when it really matters. You love who they are, not what they do. You love them for who they are. So this is what I mean by being fully known, you love them because you know them. These are people that have been in your life, probably your whole lives, and you trust them, you love them, you know them. So here's a real question. Do you love yourself the same way? Do you know how your eyes light up when you talk about something that means a lot to you, that you care about? Maybe it's social justice or something in the world that matters to you. How do your eyes light up? The way your body relaxes when you are around people who truly, truly see you for who you are. Like the very nature of who you are around the people that know you the best. You could just be yourself. You can just let go of all these kind of expectations and titles and formalities and just be you, right? What about the dreams that get tucked away when life gets really busy? The people who know those deep dreams and deep passions and ambitions that you have, how you could just be yourself around these people. This is what I mean by being fully known, by feeling completely understood. And we can get to know ourselves in this deeply intimate way as well. Getting to know ourselves outside of our roles is just like this. Because when you know yourself very deeply, you can love yourself holistically. You can love yourself fully. And love, my dear mama, is what anchors us when everything else falls apart. Talked about things falling apart in last week's episode. What anchors us when everything else is moving around us, is shifting. Experience has taught me that it always comes back to that sense of inner knowing, that sense of inner peace, that sense of inner being, like the essence of who am I at my core, right? Who is my authentic self? It always comes back to that. Do I know her, right? Do I love her? Do I love being her? Do I love who she is becoming? So now I want to talk about rediscovering that person who has been buried beneath the weight of all these titles. Rediscovering yourself. How do we even begin this journey? How do we meet the woman, the person behind all of the titles? So here are a few gentle ways that you can begin to rediscover yourself. The first is to get curious. I always say this to my boys, always stay curious. Ask yourself, what brings me joy that has nothing to do with the achievements that I have, nothing to do with the letters after my name, nothing to do with the titles that I carry, but what brings me joy that is outside of all of the achievements. Maybe it's painting, maybe it's dancing in the kitchen, maybe it's, taking a walk in nature and just reconnecting with nature. Maybe it's laughing with a friend and just being silly about nothing important. Maybe it's connecting with a family member that you haven't heard for a long time, or just really having one of those moments where you're just like totally yourself. I had one of these moments a couple of days ago. I was doing a video call with my beloved grandmother who is all the way in Barbados, and it was just so amazing to just reconnect with her. We talk a lot on the phone and things like that. And we try to do video calls ever so often, but it's been a couple of weeks since we've done one. And I just, it was so lovely to connect with her. It was so lovely to just like look at each other's faces and see the smiles and see the joy. She was talking to our youngest and he was just making her laugh. And I could just see her face light up with just unparalleled joy. To be in that moment, to be present in that moment, it was just so grounding for me. And I was feeling so overwhelmed with, I was worrying about loads of things, and just connecting with her and remembering who I was, and I can just fully be myself. It was just so grounding, so grounding. And of course, like my family has always had that kind of effect on me, I would say, always a source of strength, and my village and just people that I know love and care for me. But, my new family, my husband and my kids, they also provide me with that grounding. When I'm tempted to forget what matters, when I'm tempted to get caught up in all the hats and the titles, they ground me. They remind me of why I'm here. They remind me of who I am at my core. So these are the people that genuinely, genuinely love and care for me. And they often remind me of the queen that I am whenever I am tempted to forget. One of the things that I also love about my husband is that we've known each other since we were young, since we were teenagers, right? And so over the years, we have developed such a strong connection, which unbelievably continues to grow, continues to get stronger, even though we're like, a couple decades down the road. But again, he provides such a sense of grounding for me. Like, I don't need to put any layers on. I can just peel everything back and just bear my soul, like just be me, and vice versa. He can do that with me as well. And that gives me such a sense of peace, groundedness, just, lifts the weight of the world. And I'm not talking about, titles and things. Now I'm talking about genuine connection, just a very deep love for one another, like a level of deep understanding and respect for one another that evades words, evades description, but one that is felt, one that is known, that allows me to be my authentic self, and the joy that brings me to be able to do that, the gratitude I have for that safe space to be fully and wholly me. And as two individuals who deeply, deeply love and care for each other, that I could just be myself with that person. And I feel like there's this unspoken need for us as human beings to have these kind of connections, whether it's a marital situation or whether it's, a family member that we're really close to. Like we kind of need we need to have people in our lives that can create those safe spaces for us to be fully and wholly ourselves. We need that, because all these other titles we wear and all these other things that, all these expectations that the world puts on us, all these labels that the world places on us can be a lot to bear, a lot to carry. And so we need those safe spaces where we can just kind of, release the burden of those labels and just be us, And I know that the point of this first point about how you can rediscover yourself was really about getting curious. And of course, I've gone off on a tangent, like typical me. But the whole point of it was that I see these interactions with the people that we love, the people that we know, the people that we trust, the people that we feel safe with, as the perfect opportunities to reintroduce ourselves, to get to know who we are. Because when we are our authentic selves with them, it allows us to get to know ourselves too. And so by being curious in these conversations, in these interactions, in these experiences and environments, we can get to know who we are, staying curious, trying to look for, cues about who are we? How do we respond? Why do we respond in that way? How do people interact with us and engage with us? And that can give us some really good clues as to who we are, who we're becoming, who are we when we are actually our authentic selves. So get curious. How can you create moments where you can be you can be yourself without connection to these titles and achievements and accolades? Who are you at the core? The second gentle way to begin in rediscovering yourself is to journal with intention. Now, this is something that I am not always consistent at, I must admit, but it's definitely something that I encourage our boys to do, to just write your thoughts. It doesn't have to be written. It could be spoken word, it could be drawing if art is your thing. It could be writing, it could be typing, like whatever, however you're able to express your thoughts and record those can be really a helpful way of rediscovering, reconnecting with yourself. And so in many ways, just finding ways that work for you to express how you feel, express your thoughts, so helpful. So some of the things that you can ask yourself in terms of prompts might be something like, well, who was I before I felt like I had to prove myself to the world? Who was I before I had all these expectations of, proving that I belong, proving that I deserve, proving that I can achieve, proving that I can do this, proving that I can do that? Who was I before I had all of these expectations of proving myself? What did I love doing as a child? What did I enjoy doing when I didn't have any responsibilities and I was able to live my life freely and just be me? What did I enjoy doing? What do I want to feel more of in my life? If there's certain things that bring me lots of joy, how can I make space to do more of those things? And so the next time you are, connecting with yourself through journaling, maybe ask yourself some of these questions and see what comes up. See what your brain throws at you when you prompt it with some of these questions. The fourth way that you can rediscover yourself is to honor your needs. Not a checklist, not productivity hacks, not, the next thing to chase after, but what do you actually need right now, right? Rest, maybe. You may just prefer some quiet time to reflect. Maybe you want to get creative. Maybe you need to move more. Maybe, you are just craving a bit of stillness. How can you honor those needs? How can you become, and I joke about this, but I really do think of myself as the queen of the unhurried life, absolutely queen, because for me, it's about how can I slow down? How can I slow down, pause for long enough to honor my needs, to rediscover myself? And then the last tip is to let yourself evolve. You're allowed to grow beyond what people expect. You cannot live your life people pleasing and trying to make everyone think that you're the most amazing thing. Like, you don't have to prove yourself constantly. You're allowed to change your mind about something. You're allowed to want to do something different. You're allowed to be messy and imperfect and also magical at the same time, also amazing at the same time. You're allowed to be all of those things. You're allowed to have lofty goals, but also want to be present in the little moments. So in allowing yourself to evolve, you can rediscover your true self. Who are you at the core? What do you actually want from this life? So this is not about, like I said, rejecting titles, because I do see value. I'm so proud to be the mother of my children. I'm so proud to be the wife of my amazing husband. I am so proud to be a PhD doctor. I'm so proud to be all the things that I am, right? To carry all of those titles. But it's about expanding my essence beyond those titles. You're still a phenomenal mom. You're still a brilliant scholar. You're still a devoted leader. You're still a devoted wife. You're still, an amazing employee. You're still all the things. But you are also allowed to be a whole human, not just a role and a title and a hat, but you're allowed to be the essence of who you are. So let's talk about the work that we really do. So for me, this is about redefining the work, because the real work isn't just the outputs and deliverables and the deadlines. The real work is about how you show up in the world. What mark do you want to make on the world? It's the way you listen. It's the values that you model. It's the tenderness that you take into each space. It's the laughter, it's the resilience, it's the inspiration, it's the way you love your kids, it's the way you love your spouse, it's the way you learn to love yourself. That's the real work. This quiet, powerful presence that you bring into the world, that is your essence. That is your contribution. That is what people will remember most about you. Not the job on your, ID card or LinkedIn profile or, Instagram page or whatever. Like those things just tell people what you do. What really is the essence here, or the work that really matters here, is how you make people feel when they are with you. How do you make people feel? It's who you are becoming, the person you are becoming on this journey as you navigate all of these various roles and titles and hats and experiences and environments that you find yourself in, how you're navigating those spaces and who you're becoming through that. That's the real work. That's the work that really, really matters. And so, mama, as you go about your day, juggling all the things, leading, nurturing, studying, working, I want you to carry this thought with you. You are not your title. You're not your output. You are not your productivity. You're not your to-do list. You are a living, breathing soul with an essence about you, a sacred essence. You have a unique way of showing up in this world that can never be stolen, can never be copied, can never be replicated. And you have a light that cannot be dimmed or boxed in by any label that the world has given you. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being you. Thank you for doing the work that matters, not just out there in the world, but also within yourself, because that is the real work. Make sure that whatever you do this Mother's Day or beyond, that you honor the woman who is beneath those titles, because she is doing beautiful, necessary work simply by being herself, simply by showing up as who she truly is. So make sure that while you are, blessing all the mums around you or mother figures around you this Mother's Day, that you give yourself the flowers as well. Figuratively, of course, or even, physically, that's fine too. But that you give yourself the flowers that you deserve as you navigate your own journeys of becoming. And so until next time, as always, I am sending you lots of love and lots of gratitude. And don't forget to leave a kind review at the end of this episode. Thanks for listening, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye for now. Thank you for tuning in to the Mrs. Mummy PhD podcast. I hope you've enjoyed the episode, and if you did and you want in on this movement, please head over to mrsmummyphd.com or scholarlymamas.com. If you want to do your PhD well without sacrificing yourself or those you love dearest, then you need your hands on all the ways that we can work together to transform your journey of scholarly motherhood from one of overwhelm, disillusionment and burnout to one of scholarly joy and purposeful success. Make sure you head over to mrsmummyphd.com. I'll leave a link in the show notes. I cannot wait to work with you. Remember, Mama, these are our journeys of becoming.